we want to have the habit of stopping and remembering that God's the one who takes care of us, that God's the one who's providing it.
If you're looking backwards and you're not able to see and recognize God's work, it could be that, hey, your theology has blinded you. Your lack of theological development, your lack of the knowledge of Scripture.
Maven is a partnership. We partner with people around the country to put on our virtual training, to do all of our live events, to take students on immersive experience trips. We have partners around the country who help us to do this. And by helping us to do this, I mean they partner with us financially to make all that we do at Maven possible.
Yes, this work is impossible without those friends. And that's why Erin and I are really encouraged. This month, at the end of the year, there's a group of Maven partners who have pledged $54,000 to challenge our other friends to step in and step up and support the work of Maven. In fact, how we end up at the end of the year really dictates what we can do in the coming year and the plans that we can make. And so I want to encourage you, our listeners, to take that challenge and to meet or even exceed the $54,000 challenge gift that these partners have given. The financial partnership with Maven at the end of the year is so vital to our mission. And so we want to invite you to help us meet that $54,000 challenge. Would you consider a year-end gift by December 31st?
Thank you for being an essential part of Maven's mission. We couldn't do it without you.
Well, this is the final Maven Parent Podcast of the year. Erin, you made it. You made it through 112 episodes this season. And we are taking a 2-week break for the holy days. We will celebrate Jesus and Christmas and forget all about you folks out there. But you know what? To our listening audience, can I offer a word of chastisement? You have been listening to us all year long. You've been taking advantage of this free resource that we put out. You have been trained, equipped, discipled, taken deeper, and you still haven't liked, subscribed, commented, or left us a positive 5-star review. And so I am going to guilt trip you actually into...
That doesn't work with some people.
It doesn't work? Okay.
It works with some people.
Should we try that again?
Well, finish that for the ones that it works with. And
Okay,
then you
so
need
if you're feeling guilty right now because you've taken advantage of us and you haven't given back.
Oh my word.
It's time to give back. It's the season of giving back. And so, no, it would help the podcast tremendously. It's the all-knowing algorithm.
Mm-hmm.
If you would like and subscribe and leave a positive review. If the podcast has been helpful to you, to your family, to your your horrible little kids. Sorry, I got to get past the sarcasm.
Uncle.
No, if we have been any help whatsoever, would you leave us some feedback? Actually, that would really encourage Erin too, because sometimes she has a hard time continuing on. And actually, that's what we should do. We should be like, hey, if you want Erin to continue on, we need at least 5 new 5-star reviews.
Otherwise, the new year, it's just going to be Brett, and nobody wants that.
Oh, gosh. Yeah, see? That is a legitimate threat right there. If you just want me, keep things as is. All right. No, but seriously, friends, we would really appreciate getting your feedback. And yeah. Okay. Erin, I'm going to quiz you. Well, you know these answers. I can't actually quiz you. Okay, audience, I'm quizzing you. Those of you who are listening, we're going to do a little Christmas quiz here because it is a couple of weeks before Christmas. And just want to test your knowledge of the Christmas story. So here's question number one. Question number one. The Bible indicates that Jesus was born in the month of December. Is that true or false?
This is a true or false quiz, right?
That's right. True or false? Easy. Just guess.
You talking to me?
Yeah.
I know the answer.
All right. What is the answer?
That is false.
Ding, ding,
Bible
ding,
gives
ding. No indication what month Jesus was born. So yeah, we don't have an indication of that. All right. Question number two. Moses prophesied that Jesus would be born in Bethlehem. True or false?
That is false.
Ding, ding, ding. You are correct.
Who was the... Oh, you are reading the answers.
I was
going to say, who is the prophet?
Well, who is it?
Micah.
We named our son after him. What passage of scripture?
I know this. I know this.
Well, it's ironic because you're not giving the answer, but you keep telling me you know it.
Okay, you know what?
Point out that subtle contradiction.
As we are getting older, you do the same thing. Actually, you were just saying how there will be something that you know and you can't access it.
I don't recall saying that. Yeah. Micah 5:2.
5.
Micah
I was going to
5:2.
say 3.
Okay, here we go. Little tougher question, audience. The shepherds and magi visited Jesus on the night of his birth.
Just like the
Erin,
nativity set
the correct answer?
The correct answer is no.
False. No, the correct answer is false. True or false, not yes or no.
Oh, okay, it's false. And it was just the shepherds
that
visited.
The
Magi. But
probably don't show up until about 2 years of age for Jesus.
But the reason we think that is why, Kunkel?
Well, it's kind of drawing an inference from the fact that Herod had commanded all the children 2 years and younger to be
No, I mean, why do we think? Because a lot of people think the Magi came the night Jesus was born. It's because of nativity. It's because of art.
Oh, why do people think that wrong
that?
thing? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah.
It's because a lot of times artists, of course, they paint the whole scene of Christ's birth. And so they'll paint in, the shepherds and the Magi. And of course, a lot of us have nativity sets. And so you want to put the whole story in there, but it didn't happen all on one day.
Okay. Question. Pontius Pilate plotted to kill the baby Jesus. True or false?
That is false.
Yeah, folks, you better not get that one wrong. It was not Pilate. Who was it?
Herod.
King Herod. All right. How about this one? The Bible tells us, true or false, the Bible tells us that 3 magi from the east visited Jesus after his birth.
Wait, didn't we just answer this one?
No, the Bible tells us that 3 magi from the east visited Jesus after his birth.
Oh, I know where you're trying to trick me.
Yeah. Did I? Answer is?
No. No, I'm just kidding. It's false. We don't know how many magi.
The Bible does not give us any number.
Doesn't say.
Now, why do we get the 3 magi?
Because there were 3 gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. And so, again, the nativity sets will have 1 magi each holding a gift, but we don't actually know how many magi there were.
Interesting, interesting fact. Most nativity sets have 3 different races of magi. You ever notice that?
Mm-hmm.
You'll have a dark-skinned one, a medium-skinned one, and a light-skinned one. And I don't know. I think there must have been some federal law enacted, DEI law enacted on the production of
well, they're coming from the east, and so it's representing, it could be, obviously they could have been from all different parts of the east. So
I was just being
they're
sarcastic.
doing a rainbow of colors.
Thank you, Erin.
Kind of like our family.
Okay, here's this is the last one here. Okay. And hey, feel free listening audience, take these quiz questions and test your kids, or test your spouse, actually. All right, here's true or false. Don't look, you're looking at the answer.
Oh my gosh.
All right, in Bethlehem, there was no room for Joseph and Mary in the inn.
Well, it's true that some Bible translations say that.
Don't read the King James. We are a King James never
We
family.
are not.
Well,
That
there's
is-
the King James only folks.
No.
We're the King James never folks.
No, we're not.
We're starting up a whole new church. King James never.
No, there are good things about the King James. Like the language is so beautiful.
The language is beautiful. The translation is horrible. No, I'm just kidding. It's a good translation.
But it does say there's no room in the inn. But first of all, there weren't hotels in first century.
There was no Marriott in Bethlehem.
No,
Bethlehem is
no
a
Holiday Inn.
little backwater town. There's not going to be any inns.
So why does it say that, Brett? Why does the King James translate it that way?
Those translators did not know their Greek. And they translate, there's a Greek word, kataluma, that is better translated like guest room. And it refers to many homes. Well, it can be translated kind of guest room, or there's like a lot of homes would actually have animals, a place for the animals that would be, I guess not connected, but a part of the home.
Connected, yeah.
Yeah, it would be connected, but be part of the home, and it could be referring to that area as well. Not like just necessarily a guest room, or oftentimes that area was used as a guest room, because you gotta put yourself in the first century context when you didn't have anything near the homes that we have today. So they most likely did not stay in any inn. It would have been very customary for them to stay with
family.
Yeah,
They would have been staying with family, but of course, in that culture, the oldest family members get priority to rooms and all of those things. There would have been a lot of Mary and Joseph's family traveling to Bethlehem. So
yes, okay. So little fun here on the Maven Parent Podcast during this Christmas season. But, if you get a few of those wrong, number one, shame on you. I like to say that first.
You do.
Shame on you. But then secondly, look, here is a story that we all say we know, but we can forget the details of that story. And obviously forgetting that story and forgetting the details means that we need to remind ourselves. And what we want to talk about in today's podcast is the idea of remembering. We are at the end of the year, and oftentimes, hey, you get to the end of the year.
Well, we're at the end of because we've done Advent episodes where we talk about this is the beginning of the church calendar year.
I blew it.
No.
I blew it. I'm not a super spiritual Christian who practices the church calendar as much as I need to.
We are in this culture and time and place. So, of course, Christmas comes and then New Year's comes, January 1st, the beginning of the year. So it is the end of the year.
Should we call it the secular year? We are almost at the end of the secular
year.
We're at the end of the non-Christian year. 2025 is coming to a close. And oftentimes you kind of get through Christmas, and then you're looking forward to, and a lot of families will express this, right? A lot of parents will express this. Hey, once I kind of get through Christmas, get rid of all the Christmas decorations, get the house cleaned back up. And then it's time to start looking towards the new year. And then we're looking at, January 1st and the new year and
New Year's resolutions.
Maybe, the resolutions.
We're going to lose weight. We're going to get back on track.
We feel like we failed this last year once again. And so, hey, here's one more chance to get it right. And that's not going to work out anyway. So we're saying don't do that. Instead, okay, we're saying you can still do that.
Sure.
But before you do that, before you're already off and running into the new year, here's something that families really should do. And that is, okay, remember this last year. So we've got the month of December and maybe spilling over into January to take some intentional time to remember.
Yeah. I think it's something we don't always think we need to do, but it is good practice. And what we find is it's actually a practice that people have do in the scriptures for a purpose. But the practice of remembering, because we oftentimes, if we don't do that, if we don't stop and remember, we will actually forget. And so that's kind of the point, is instead of just coming to the end of this year, looking towards next year, before you do that, as a family, as a mom and kids, or as a mom and dad and kids, or whatever your family setup is, spend some time stopping and thinking about the year that we've just had, and ultimately kind of looking at it and seeing, what has God gotten us through? What has God done this year? And remember that.
Yeah, why would we want to do that? Well, you kind of, I mean, you hinted at it right there, remembering what God has done. And this is, something that you see kind of throughout the Old Testament. And um and even in the New Testament, this idea of remembering.
Mm-hmm.
Uh you remember because there are times when you look in the past, and this is often how we kind of see God's action,
Yes.
right? We look in the rear view mirror. Like right now in this present moment, it's really hard to know or discern what God is doing. Uh, I it's much more difficult in the present moment to identify, oh, yeah, his sovereign hand is working here or there. And so a lot of times it's you're driving, right? And you're looking in the rearview mirror and you're seeing the things that God has done. You're seeing the ways that God has provided or protected, or He's just walked with you through difficult times, or He's brought blessing. And so, uh, one of the reasons we remember is because it helps us to remember God.
Mm-hmm.
It helps us to remember that He has been working, even when we didn't see it in the moment.
Yeah. Well, it helps us to build trust, which is another word for faith. The way the scriptures describe faith is trust. And it helps us to build trust when we look back and remember what God has done. And maybe not just in your own family, but maybe in our country, maybe in other people's families that you've been involved in. But remembering what God has done helps us to have trust in the future. The unknown, of course, is the future. We have no idea what next year is going to bring for every single one of us. And so the best practice for having faith in the future is to look back and remember all the things that God has brought you through in this year. And I mean, you could look through several years if you need to, but if nothing else, just to make it a practice to maybe you actually pull out the calendar and go through every month of the year with your family and say, okay, what happened in January? What was going on? And then remember some things. And then what happened in February and March? Or maybe your family had a big thing that happened this year that would be good just to look back and think about and see what came from that. So that's kind of what we're suggesting here and doing.
Yeah, and we see it in the Old Testament. You've got a passage like Deuteronomy 4:9, and many others. But in verse 9, it says, only take care and keep your soul diligently, lest you forget the things that your eyes have seen,
Mhm.
unless they depart from your heart all the days of your life. Make them known to your children and your children's children, right? And so um, here is an exhortation not to forget,
Mhm.
and that the opposite of forgetting it is remembering,
Yeah. Well,
So,
and this explicitly is saying to remember and to do that with your children.
mhm.
So remember the things your own eyes have seen, meaning the things you've experienced with God, and then to say them to your children and then to your children's children. So that this we're actually instructed to remember as a family and remind your children. Maybe they were only 2, but you can remind them of things that they didn't maybe see with their own eyes, but you're reminding them of what's happened.
Yeah, a few chapters later, Deuteronomy 8, starting in verse 10, and you shall eat and be full, and you shall bless the Lord your God for the good land he has given you. Verse 11, take care lest you forget the Lord your God by not keeping his
Mhm.
commandments and his rules and his statutes, which I command you today. Lest when you have eaten and are full and have built good houses and live in them, and when your herds and flocks multiply, and your silver and gold is multiplied, and all that you have is multiplied, then your heart be lifted up, and you forget the Lord your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of slavery, and
Mhm.
on and on and on. And so uh, I, there's this, again, exhortation to remember. And then down to verse 17, beware lest you say in your heart, my power and the might of my hand have gotten me this wealth. Verse 18, you shall remember the Lord your God, for it is he who gives you power to get wealth, that he may confirm his covenant that he swore to your fathers, as it is this day. And then verse 19, and if you forget the Lord your God and go after other gods and serve them and worship them, I solemnly warn you today that you shall surely perish. And so there's actually real consequences here for not remembering in the Old Testament
Yeah.
under the Mosaic covenant.
Yeah.
But I guess we could reinstitute this here today. Folks, if you don't remember, you are going to perish, as the Bible says right here in Deuteronomy chapter 8.
Well, it is a warning that if you're not purposeful in remembering, then you will forget and you will start to think that your life is sustained by you and that the things that you have, the relationships you have, all of that, that it actually is because of you.
Yeah.
And you'll forget actually who's really in charge of everything.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess that's that. Remembering is this, it's kind of this discipline that draws your attention to God's sovereign work.
Mhm.
Now, I guess the challenge. So here's a question for you, Erin. What if you're looking back? Let's say you're a family. Maybe you do this with your kids, or you ask them about this last year, and it just seems to be devoid of God. Like you look back and go, I don't see God. I don't know where God was at. That could be a discouraging thing.
Mhm.
And then, then they'll blame the Maven Parent podcast for telling them to remember, and then they're actually now discouraged. So
Well,
what would be your advice to someone who's maybe struggling that way?
well, I think actually if your family has had a hard year, that this is probably vital for you to do. And that it's okay. For example, like I'm thinking of some good friends of ours where the dad lost his job this year and just recently. And so,
You can go ahead
gosh,
and tell them
you
that.
want us to sit down as a family and think about the year and think, oh yeah, dad lost his job and we have no idea what we're going to do. Or in our case, honey, I mean, this year we lost your dad. And so I'm thinking about Christmas and thinking, oh, this is going to be a tough Christmas. Last year was a tough Christmas because we had lost my dad. And so these years where actually we have a hard year, I think is even more important to do this as a family and to help our kids think through, even when bad things happen, there are good things that are happening too. Maybe your family went through a divorce this year. I mean, I know that the people listening have had all kinds of things happen this year. But to remember and look for, even in small ways, God's faithfulness, and to help your kids see, maybe it's okay. Well, what are some ways that we've seen God provide this year, even in the midst of fear? Or it's maybe, okay, this has been a hard year, but let's look back even further into other years and see what God's done. And that's going to help us trust that maybe this year was terrible, but it doesn't mean every year is going to be that way. And we've seen enough of God to know that he's with us even in this suffering.
Yeah. So, okay. So a couple thoughts that come to mind with this, because for some it might be a struggle. For some, it's not. They can't just muster up, right? They can't muster up. Yeah, here God did this or he did that, or it's been discouraging or whatever. And so it seems like to me that maybe it could be. This is one possibility, that you haven't developed eyes to see. And you and I haven't been paying attention throughout the year.
Mm-hmm.
And so we haven't been asking that question, because we're talking about, okay, now look back over the last 12 months and remember. But maybe it needs to start with, hey, let's just look at this last month and let's
Mm-hmm.
remember. And cultivate in ourselves eyes to see, or eyes to look around.
Mm-hmm.
And so that could be part of the problem. It also could be that we don't have a proper theology. And so we're actually blinded by uh, our theological immaturity, because, or we've absorbed false messages, or maybe we came from a quote unquote Christian tradition that said, "Oh, God is working only in the victories. He's it's maybe the prosperity gospel, where if you're not, you know, increasing your wealth or your possessions or whatever, well, then you don't have enough faith." And so what it looks like for God to work in your mind is that, oh, it's success, it's the victorious Christian life, and that just means that we have a stunted theology. We don't have a theology of suffering. We don't have a theology of sin, or a well-developed one, where we are able to say, uh, God is working in the difficulties. In fact, it may often be more recognizable that he's working in the difficulties. This is Romans chapter 5. This is James chapter 1, the considering it all joy when you encounter various trials. And so if you're looking backwards and you're not able to see and recognize God's work, it could be that, hey, your theology has blinded you. Your lack of theological development, your lack of the knowledge of Scripture, and the ways that God works, because the Bible is filled with God working through tragedy, God working through sin, God actually, for the Israelites, saying, you're going to be in the desert for 40 years. And so even when we have those times, we might call them desert times, we don't feel close to God. We don't, maybe we don't sense him, or we don't see, can't recognize. Well, that may be a desert, but that doesn't mean God's not there. And that doesn't mean that God's not working. And so this is actually where I think apologetics can be really helpful.
Mm.
for us as adults to anchor our faith, to know the rational reasons for belief in God, and to know that, yeah, even when the emotions aren't there, even when the closeness isn't there, even when I'm not seeing God, or, just things seem fuzzy, I'm not sure where he's at in all of this, I can still know, like, okay, but God is working, even if I can't see it. Um, and so
Mhm.
those are some things I think may be helpful to consider if you're looking back going, I can't see God. And then lastly, I would just say, and not last in order, but the last thing I'd say on this is, well, we may need to be praying more, and praying and asking God to help, maybe reveal to us the ways in which He has sovereignly worked.
Mm.
Open our eyes, Lord, to see how you've been working. Show me how I'm missing these things.
Yeah.
Uh,
Which in the Old Testament, what you're reading from, but you're in Deuteronomy, it's throughout that praying and asking God to show us. It seems like the way God does this in the Old Testament is by calling his people to remember. And so for years and years, when they're in the desert, God calls them to remember when he saved them out of Egypt. And so he's not saying, remember what I did last month. He's actually saying, remember who I was back then. I'm still the same. I'm still here, but you're in the desert right now. But remember what I did. And that will help you to trust. And I think too, as you were talking, I was thinking, if you are having a hard time thinking about remembering this year and not sure how God was working, I would say then you probably need help, maybe from a friend. Maybe you could call a friend and say, help me to think through this year and all that's happened with me, or that's happened with our family. Help me to see where it has been evident that God's been with us. Sometimes other people can help us to get a perspective.
mm,
If you're afraid to do this with your kids, with your family, invite another family over, do a dessert night, and tell them ahead of time, hey, we're all going to share something that we remember God did this year, and let another family kind of help absorb maybe the fear of you doing it with your kids, because maybe it has been a terrible year. Because I'm just thinking about how, how that someone will remember something, and that helps you to have a perspective to see things that you didn't
mhm.
see before. And I'm thinking about how every year with our kids, when we do Christmas ornaments and decorate the tree, we have them think of 3 things that they're grateful for this past year. And so we have them think about the whole year and what are some things that God has done that you're grateful for.
Yeah, that's one
And
way that we are intentional in remembering, is
that's
by
when
doing
we
that
do,
little.
yeah, our remembering. But I the kids sometimes spur on for me. Like they'll say something, well, God brought me this new friend. And I'll be stuck in thinking of financial hardship or some kind of struggle, losing my dad or something. And then they'll say, well, I'm thankful God brought me this friend, or I'm
Mhm.
thankful that I had a good time here, or church was really good this year, or something. And it kind of wakes me up and directs my mind. Oh, yeah, there's actually all kinds of ways to see that God has provided and been with us during a year.
Yeah, and that's where I think I'd want to encourage parents, like, if you feel nervous about doing this with your kid because you're having trouble identifying it, then maybe that's all the more reason to do it with your family.
Yeah.
Because and this is where we as adults continue to be, we humble ourselves and we're teachable, and sometimes just sitting around and as a family, and even admitting, like, guys, we want to do some remembering over this last year, but I'll just be honest with you, I'm having a hard time
Yeah.
remembering and seeing God's hands. I want to hear from you guys. What are ways in which you've seen God work in big and small ways? And man, you could really be ministered to by your kids
Yep.
or your spouse.
Mm.
Um, I like your idea too of bringing another family, particularly another family maybe who's involved in your church with you.
Yes.
And
Yes.
then there's that larger community and
Hmm.
seeing God work in our church, in our body, and um, various things that have happened there. So, yeah, this is definitely not something that you're probably going to do really well individually. It's much better done in community. Do it with your family, even if you're struggling with it.
Yeah, I know. And especially if you have people in your church who are just really good at seeing the way that God's working, there just are some people that have good insight. Lean on them. Some people really have gifting in it, and it's okay to say, "Hey, would you would you do this with our family? I would love my kids to hear from you because you have such a good perspective on how the Lord works, even in ways that we don't always see."
Lewis, and we'll kind of wrap this one up, and then maybe let's get a couple practical things out there. I mean, we've given a couple practical things already, but C.S. Lewis, uh, in Mere Christianity, he talks about reminding ourselves of what we believe, and I think this is tied in
Mm.
because remembering helps remind us of what we believe. But he says this. He says we have to be continually reminded of what we believe. Neither this belief nor any other will automatically remain alive in the mind. It must be fed. And as a matter of fact, if you examined 100 people who had lost their faith in Christianity, I wonder how many of them would turn out to have been reasoned out of it by honest argument. Do not most people simply drift away? And that's where not remembering has a cost. It can, and the cost can be you drifting away, not recognizing God's work, not recognizing Him as the sovereign creator, and then drifting towards a view of, yeah, I got this, I did this, I worked hard, I accomplished this, and you just kind of drift into a view where you forget God's kind of work, His
Yeah.
provision, and all of that. So.
Yeah. I mean, Lewis is speaking to, I think, the human condition that we can just drift away and forget so much. And so we can look at some of these traditions of our culture and actually embrace them as, oh, this is a great time to look back and remember. And so, yeah, I mean, just practically, you can do what our family does. I mean, we do it with the Christmas ornaments, but you could do it over a Christmas meal, or maybe a New Year's Eve or New Year's breakfast or something where you spend intentional time directing your kids to think about the year. And you might have to pull out the calendar and remember what was going on in February. I totally forget, which just speaks to, again, we forget so easily. So you might have to remind your kids of what happened this summer. And so much happens in a year. But so maybe it's that way. I mean, I think this practice of remembering, I remember our son Micah when he was like 8. He asked me one time, like, "Mom, does the Bible say that we have to pray before every meal?" And I said, actually, no, it doesn't. It doesn't say that you have to pray before you eat breakfast and lunch and dinner. But the reason that Christians do it is because we want to have the habit of stopping and remembering that God's the one who takes care of us, that God's the one who's providing it. So even weaving in the why behind why your family does some of the things they do can help to build this posture of remembering throughout the year.
We are creatures that need rituals.
Mm-hmm.
We need a repetition. And actually it's when you do things again and again that they start to become more natural. And so we started very early with the kids that, hey, when we decorate the tree, once we get the lights up and the tinsel, then we all get our ornament boxes out, and each kid had their own ornament box. and then you and I had ours. And then the first three ornaments were, hey, we do it one at a time. We always did youngest to oldest. And so, like Jonah would go first and then you would go last.
You went last, Kunkel,
Oh,
because
wait.
you're the oldest.
I'm sorry, I don't remember. So we would have, what we would do is like, okay, before you hang that ornament, you say something you're thankful for from this last year. So that was the little ritual we did it while the kids were young, and now it's just become it's expected. It's not weird.
Yeah.
It's not goofy. It's just part of the culture of our family, and the kids actually enjoy it because we're doing something really good.
Yeah.
We're remembering and we're giving thanks. And so it's rituals like that. I like your idea of a meal. Maybe it's a New Year's Day meal. Of course, you'd have to work it around some of the football games, the college football games.
My word.
Because you can't.
Which again is a ritual.
Can't forget about those. But yeah, well, yeah. So there.
I think, yes, if you're going to try to do something new with your kids, make it as enjoyable as possible, especially if it's been a hard year. Do it over dessert or make, hamburgers and do something that's enjoyable.
Wow,
Smash
that's special.
burgers.
Okay, now you're talking.
Oh my gosh.
Smash burgers with grilled
the
onions.
listeners get what I mean. But the point is that you are intentional in doing. You have to be intentional. You could just do it in the car if I forgot. I wanted to do this thing with you guys. But I think putting a little thought into it and creating a new tradition, a new habit in your family that everyone else is setting New Year's resolutions. They're looking ahead. But before your family does that, you're going to look back first and you're going to remember the advice of the Lord, which is to remember what I've done. Remember how you've been able to trust me in the past, and then you can trust me in the future.
Here's a practical idea that I just came up with that I think is pretty brilliant.
Oh.
No, I was thinking. I was thinking two things. Here's the idea: like, if you are keeping maybe in the new year, the new secular year, if you started a journal. And it was a family journal. Maybe it was someplace out. You had a nice book where there was room to write things that happened throughout the year and to put a date on it. Then that could be something that you use then at the end of the year to where throughout the year, everyone gets to write. And maybe there's even, and you could write things on your own, or there's significant things that happen that kind of affect the whole family. And so you write them down together as a family. But you almost kind of journal what's been happening in the family for a year. And then at the end of the year, you sit down and you read through some of those things together. That would be a real good intentional way to remember things.
Yes. And some of you are very good at that. I am not good at that, but there is one.
You're not.
There's 1 year that I was specifically really good at even putting the date down too. But that was... So there was a year about 9 years ago that in February, my dad had a massive stroke. And then 6 weeks later, my mom, her cancer came back. And then a few months later, our daughter was pregnant with our first grandchild, and she developed preeclampsia, and she ends up in the ICU. Our granddaughter's in the NICU. Also that year is when we started Maven. And anyway, and there were other things that happened that year, but that was such a tumultuous year that I just found myself journaling, which I normally didn't do, but I just did because I was desperate, I guess. But at the end of that year, I looked back at that, and I have looked back on that year in particular several times because it helps me to see that year of just, it seemed like when it rained, it poured that year. I look back now and see how God was with us in all of those things. And so the writing down is particularly good, I think, because we forget. So if you can remember to write, it's a wonderful thing to do.
Yeah. And I think that we refer to that as the year of godliness in our family when you did that. So
the year of godliness.
Maybe
Why? Because I kept a record.
Yeah, you kept a record, and we haven't had another year of godliness since.
Gosh. Well, it's your turn. You why don't you keep a journal this next? That's your New Year's resolution.
I'm a guy.
Yeah.
I don't journal.
Gosh.
No, I'm not good at it either. I'm very bad at that.
Yeah.
And basically our kids are almost out of the house now anyway. So that ship has sailed for us.
Yeah, God's not working anymore. Oh my word.
No, sometimes you have these really good ideas that you actually yourself don't need to implement. So
it was a brilliant idea of yours.
Brilliant
that you
idea
have no
for
intention
you
of
people
doing.
out there. No, but those are just trying to work some of this out practically.
Yeah.
End of the year, end of the calendar year, good time to reflect.
Yeah.
And to look back and to see, hopefully, the goodness of God, even when it's tough, the sovereignty of God. And as you said earlier, Erin, to learn to trust him more. And so at the end of the year, this is a great discipline to incorporate and build into your family life, and to remember ultimately who God is and what he's done. Maven exists to help the next generation know truth, pursue goodness, and create beauty for the cause of Christ. Through your generous financial partnership with Maven, you are having an impact on the lives of students and families across the country. To become a monthly partner, visit maventruth.com and click on the donate button.